Good morning and hi to all the audience, students, and our lecturer, Mr. Amizam. Today, about history of economic thoughts, we are going to discuss on how the neoclassical economists extended this economic analysis by discussing on imperfect competitions by Edward Hastings Chamberlain and also Joanne Robinson. And also, we are going to discuss on monetary economics by John Gustav Knut Wicksell and also Irving Fisher. This is chapter 16 and also 17 from our textbook. And you can see we are from group 6. Our group consists of 5 persons and my name is Tan Yi Sheng. The matrix number is 286424. Now let's get into the introduction. The introduction is about neoclassical school. In neoclassical school, we don't have 5 major questions to answer, but instead we have 3 extensions of economic analysis. For this 3 extension of economic analysis, first one, we have the value theory. The value theory is focused more on the demand and also supply. The neoclassical economists determine the market price of goods, services, and resources based on the demand and also supply. This is different from the classical and the marginalist because the classical state that the market price should be determined by supply only, while the marginalists state that the market price should be determined by demand only. The next one is monetary economics. This is the study on the role of money. This several of neoclassical economists such as Wicksell and also Fisher are more interested in this role of money in the economic than the earlier marginalists. Their research shows that money can be used in many functions in the economy. Last but not least is the imperfect competition. The neoclassical economists try to extend the marginal analysis on the market to many structures that other than the pure competitions and pure monopoly and also duopoly. Well, in the 3 extension of economic analysis that I have just mentioned, the first difference, the value theories, has already been discussed by group A5. So, we will continue to focus on the monetary economics and also the imperfect competitions. The monetary economics, we will focus on 2 great economics. That one is John Gustav Knut Wicksell and also one is Irving Fisher. For the imperfect competition, the great economics is Edward Hastings Chamberlain and also Joanne Robinson. Now, let's talk about the neoclassical school, which is the monetary economics. For the monetarists in the monetary economics, they emphasize that monetary phenomena are more important than the others. While for the classical school, Marxist school, and also early marginalists says that money is real that has to pull aside to examine the real world is, and also it's subordinate to basic economic factors. Both marginalists and monetarists agree on there are no separate school of monetary economics because money was destined to increase in importance over the year in the future. Next, we'll have to talk about the twofold contribution of Wicksell and also Fisher. They have explored an area that had been neglected by the economists and also integrated monetary analysis into general economic theories that helps that change our economics history. Although some of these theories are more tend to be the macroeconomics than the microeconomics, but these theories are still within the Marshallian traditions, which is the main form of neoclassical economics that happens at 1890s to 1930s.
My name is Muhammad Azri. I'm going to explain about John Gustav. John Gustav Wiese was the founder of the Swedish School of Economics. He studied the economic theory of Mill, Karl Menger, and Bond backward for 5 years. After obtaining his PhD degree in 1895, he became the professor of economics in 91 of the University of Lund. Wiesel main writing are interest and price, value, capital and rent, study in finance theory, lecture on political economy, vol 1 and vol 2. Main idea of Wiesel is Wiesel pioneered an aggregate demand supply approach for the relation between investment and saving to explain variation in the value of money, price level and also fluctuation in price. Investment and saving are in equilibrium at the natural rate of interest, which must be equal to the expected rate of return on newly produced capital goods. Price level movement are due to a persistent divergence between the market rate of interest, and the natural rate. This is Wiesel's famous analysis of cumulative process according to which price level movements stem from the interest differential. Second, Wiesel's concept of the hypothetical pure credit economy or cashless society. In this regime, all outside money ceases to exist. The banking system consists of a single central bank with no reserve. The medium of exchange is entirely inside money checking deposit created by the central bank when it makes loan. With no reserve constraint to anchor nominal variables in the pure credit regime, the supply of deposit money has potentially unlimited elasticity. The price level theoretically can rise or fall forever. The test of the central bank is to prevent this outcome by means of the setting policy. Such policy replaces the missing reserve constraint to impose determinacy on can otherwise indeterminate money stock and price level. The third Whistle main idea is Whistle's third contribution in his celebrated feedback policy rule, under which the central bank stabilizes the price level by adjusting its interest rate in response to price level deviation from target, stopping only when price coverage to target. A precursor on the modern Taylor rule, Whistle rules is the prototype of the all feedback policy rules discussed in the monetary literature today. John Guster Whistle theory. Whistle also laid out marginal productivity theory, the theory that the payment to each factor of production equals that factor marginal product. Economists Philip Winstead, Enrico Baron, and John Bates Clark had already elaborated this theory. But Whistle exposition was superior. Whistle also emphasized that an efficient allocation of resource is not necessary just because the allocation depends on the pre-existing distribution of income, and nothing guarantees that this pre-existing distribution is just. Whistle is best known for the interest and price. His contribution to the flagging field, now called macroeconomics, in this book and in his 1696 Lecturer in Political Economy Volume 2, Whistle sketched out its version of quantity theory and monetarism. The standard view of the quantity theory before Whistle was the increase in the money supply have a direct effect on price. More money chasing the same amount of goods. Whistle focused on the indirect effect. In elaborating this effect, Whistle distinguished between the real rate of return of new capital and the actual market rate of interest. Whistle began the conversion of the old quantity theory into a full-blown theory of price. The Stockholm School, of which Whistle was the father figure, ran with its insight and developed its own version of macroeconomy. In some ways, this version resembled later as Keynesian economy. Whistle defined capital as the intermediate good used in production. Capital was not the separate factor of production, but it receives remuneration for its service in the form of interest. Thus, internet was the difference between the value of inner product and profit plus payment for land and labor. Whistle distinguished between natural rate of interest and bank rate of interest. The natural rate was that rate at which the demand of capital and supply of saving are equal. In other words, at the natural rate of interest, saving and investment will be equal.
I want to present for my part is Irving Fisher. I would like to start with his biodata. Irving Fisher, born on 27 February 1897 in New York, United States. Before he turned as an economist, he is a young mathematician. He suffered from tuberculosis as a young man. He writes about how to stay healthy and lifelong. Irving Fisher also invented mechanical gadget, which was invisible card index system. Above on that, he was the person who was responsible for introducing the concept of monetary in neoclassical school beside fiscal policy. His book that been published first was Mathematical Investigation in the Theory of Value and Price, The Nature of Capital and Income, The Purchasing Power of Money, Elementary Principle of Economics, Stabilizing the Dollar, The Making of Index Numbers, The Money Illusion, The Theory of Interest, Booms and Depressions, and the last one was the Debt Deflation Theory of the Great Depression. So now we move to the Fisher theories. There are three theories that Fisher come up. First is the theory of interest, Second, the quantity theory of money. And third is monetary policy. Theory of interest. In fiscal theory, that been mentioned about the difference between the theory of interest in 1906 and 1930. In 1906, the interest rates are more to how interest rates are determined. In 1930, the theory of interest more to revise and expand the version of the theory of interest itself. As we can see that the change in the influence the theory itself. This theory explained on how interest rates affect investment and consumption. There are two factors interacting to establish the interest rate. One is impatient rate, two, investment opportunity rate. Impatient rate. The meaning of impatient rate is the extent of the community willingness to obtain present consumption by giving up future consumption. The amount of future consumption is willing to trade of the present consumption depend on how impatient it is. For example, the less impatient, the more is willing to save and invest, thereby gaining future consumption. The more impatient, the less willing to give up present consumption in order to obtain the goods in the future. When the society has much present consumption relative to future consumption, the relative value of additional amounts of present consumption is small. Investment opportunity rate in bracket IOR. IOR is determined by real factors such as the quantity and the quality of resources and the state of technology. There are two extreme cases. First, use all resources to produce goods for present consumption alone. It means use all the present consumption. Two, use all the resources to produce capital. This means present consumption is zero and the future consumption would be large. However, as society moves from the first extreme to the latter one, which means no present consumption will experience the diminishing marginal return. According to Fisher, based on the principle of diminishing marginal returns, the more we save and invest and postpone our gratification, the marginal rate of return on investment IOR will decrease. It will be less and the less future consumption from each additional unit of present consumption forgone. Relative value of present consumption, impatient rate will increase. Society will use present consumption relatively more than previously because it has less present consumption than before. The less we save and invest and hasten our gratification, marginal rate of return on marginal IOR will increase. Relative value of present consumption in bracket impatient rate will decrease. The second, the equilibrium interest rate will occur where the rate of return on investment and the rate at which society is willing to trade of present for future consumption are equal. Rate of return on investment IOR equal to impatient rate. Some individuals will decide that it is their best interest to lend money, postpone consumption rate, specific interest rate, whereas other will decide to borrow money. That's mean consume now rather than later. At this equilibrium interest rate, the amount of people wish to borrow will just match the amount people desire to lend. The real interest rate may or may not equal to the nominal interest rate. This is because nominal interest rate depends upon the expected rate of inflation. For example, the expected rate of inflation is 5% and the real rate of interest rate is 3%. So, the nominal rate of interest will be approximately 8%. This effect of inflation This effect of inflation on the nominal rate of interest has come to be known as Fisher effect. Now we move to the next theory of Irving Fisher. The second theory of Irving Fisher was the quantitative theory of money. There are 5 determinants of the purchasing power of money, or its inverse, the price level. First, volume of currency in circulation. Second, its velocity of circulation. Third, the volume of bank deposits subject to check. Fourth, its velocity. And the fifth, the volume of trade. Now let's take a look of a Fisher equation of exchange. So this is the equation that for the Fisher equation of exchange, which is MV plus M prime V prime equal to PT. According to Fisher, price vary directly with the quantity of money, M and M prime, and the velocity of circulation V and V primes. Price vary inversely with the volume of trade. The volume of demands, deposit M prime tend to hold a fixed relation with the quantity of the currency in circulation is M. That is, deposits are normally a relatively fixed definite multiple of currency. The cause and effect relationship between the quality of currency and the price level. Fisher assumed that the velocity of circulation and the volume of trades are constant. The tendency toward stability in T also depend on the full employment equilibrium because with considerate unemployment an increase in M might very well increase T instead of P. In the long run, the volume of trade also grows with the change in the population, efficiency of production, and the force. In the short run, with the full employed economy, the quantity of currency is circulation normally determine the price level. The transmission mechanism through which increase or decrease in M cause change in P. People desire to hold a specific quantity of cash balance in relationship to their expenditures. The increase of the amount of cash in the economy disturbs this optimum ratio, causing individuals to readjust their cash to expenditure ratios by increasing expenditures. Hence, according to Fisher, there is a direct link between increased currency and the price. Wixell, according to Wixell, has a stress and indirect link. Money creation would cause changes in the bank interest rate that would set off changes in saving and investment that would eventually cause the price of the price level to change. Story by Irving Fisher. There is monetary policy. The quantitative theory of money offers the way to stabilize the overall price level and thereby stabilize the economy. Might be achieved with irredeemable paper money, but Fisher took dim view for the solution before the Great Depression 1930s. Fisher's plan abandoned gold coin and only used gold certificates, paper money redeemable in gold bullions. Fisher's belief that price fluctuation cause rather than result from business fluctuation. Therefore, stabilize price by controlling the quantity of money would eliminate the business cycle. After crash of 1929, Fisher saw the greatest cause of the deflation and depression as the growth of debt. Fisher believed that fluctuation in demand deposit are the greatest cause of business fluctuation. Fisher's solution was to require 100% reserve behind demand deposits, thereby divorcing the process of creating and storing money from the business of banking. First, buy liquid bank asset up to 100% of the checking deposits. 2. Bank could lend out only their own money or money to put savings account. Third, bank would have to levy service charge on deposit to compensate themselves for their loss of earning. The biggest benefit of fiscal policy would be the elimination of the great monetary inflation and deflation. To stabilize the purchasing power of the dollar, the currency commission would be required to buy securities when the index was below the official par and sell when it was above. It is apparent that the Fisher did not think that business cycles are inherent in the economy. Fisher did outstanding work in mathematical economics, statistics, and index number. Fisher was pioneer in developing the new field of econometrics, which made the statistical methods as a part of economic analysis. Fisher was honored for his contribution by being elected president of the American Economic Association, the American Statistical Association, and the Economic Society.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Sadiq bin Afzal Askar, alias Muhammad Asfar, matric number 287520. Today I want to talk about the theory of imperfect competition. So, the theory of imperfect competition came with two scopes. First is neoclassical and two is marginalism. So, we move to the neoclassical. What is neoclassical? Neoclassical is approach economy by supply and demand concept, and for marginalism is a decision over the specific units from the customers. So, why the theory of imperfect competition exists? This theory exists because the gap of the competitive monopoly and the pure monopoly. So, for this theory, it's less influence for industrial trade and industrial sector and trade sector than the agriculture sector. So, this theory, it deals with macroeconomic approach that is subjective manner, abstract and deductive. And for the economic assumes for this theory is rational, static and unchanging. So, the economists accept more vigorous government, antitrust policies and government regulation of the profits of utilities monopolies. Now, we move to a market structure that does not meet the condition of perfect competition. We have 5 market that does not meet the condition of perfect competition. First is monopoly, second oligopoly, and third monopolistic competition, fourth is monopsony, and fifth is oligopsony. We move to the monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is many companies offer competing products or services. For example, McDonald's and KFC. So the two companies are competing in fast food restaurant. So for the oligopoly, that means small number of firms and having significant influence. For example, DG, Maxis and Celcom. So the three companies have the significant influence for lines telephone. So we under the oligopoly, we have oligopsony. That means they dominate by a few large buyers. So that means the oligopsony is for the supplier. And we move to the monopoly. The monopoly have two category. That is first legal monopoly. That means under a government mandate. For example, Tenaga Nasional Berhad. That Tenaga Nasional Berhad, we know they supply the electricity to people. And the second is natural monopoly. That means the company monopoly in the certain product. For example, the ISRO, they monopoly in the signal for television.
And under monopoly, we have monopsony. That means dominated by a single buyer. That means the monopsony same for the oligopsony. That's for the supplier only. Okay, now we move to the people that responsible for the monopolistic competition. So, I want to show you the Edward Hastings Chamberlain. So, the Edward Hastings Chamberlain, or we call the Chamberlain, that Edward Hastings Chamberlain born in Lacona in Washington, and it has degree in the University of Iowa. So, for the extra information, that Chamberlain has published the book that the theory of monopolistic competition, that's published in 1933, and this book talk about the separate theories of monopoly and competition, and the range of market situation that are neither purely competition nor totally monopolistic. So, we have the Chamberlain's model. We have three Chamberlain's model. That first is offer different products. Second, offer price axis marginal cost. And three, operate on marginal cost higher than minimum. Now, we move to the theory of monopolistic competition, that from Chamberlain. So, most market prices are actually determined by both monopolistic and competition elements. So, for example, monopolistic competition. Okay, I give you the simple example that farmers sell 1 kg of chicken for RM 10 ringgit, and for the next 1 kilogram is RM 10 ringgit also. So, difference from pure competition, that if we buy one shoes that is RM 5 ringgit, so is the next pair of shoes we can get the shoes for the RM 4 ringgit. So as a result, the marginal revenue will be less than the price, except for the first item. So the shoes first price is 5 ringgit, and the second pair of shoes we can get in 4 ringgit. So it means that if the marginal cost under the average cost will fall, and if average cost under the marginal cost, the average cost rise. So from the picture, that given demand curve D and marginal revenue curve MR, the monopolistic competitor produce quantity of B at which MR equals to MC, and at which it is the economic profit of L, M, and S. This economic profit attract new entrants to the industry, resulting in a downward shift to the firm's demand and marginal revenue curves to D and MR. So, for in long run equilibrium, the firm maximize the profit by producing quantity A earns only a normal profit P equal to AC, produce less than the competitive output A rather than the C, and charge a price R that exceeds marginal cost and lowers average cost. The result is excess capacity and allocative inefficiency. So, that most market price, we look that the most market price are actually determined by both monopolistic and competition element. So, many economists agree that peer competitions that have a greater output, efficient production, and low price. So, but the monopolistic competition provide that Chamberlain's conclusion are built on the unrealistic assumption that cost curve are the same in each situation, and pure competition does not necessarily mean high output and low prices. And economy is not that a world of pure competition with all products being standardized will be a deal well indeed. And for the lastly is monopolistic competition provides positive benefits with a variety product.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Radam Tatnan, number 32F1187, and I will continue with John Robinson that focusing more in imperfect competition. John Robinson born in 1903 and died in 1983. She is a long-time professor of economics at Cambridge University and was a student of famous economist Alfred Marshall. John Robinson published her book, The Economics of Imperfect Competition. Lastly, she also contributes in Keynesian and post-Keynesian economics, economic development, and international trade. Next, monopsony. Monopsony is a situation in which there is either a single buyer in the market or a group of buyers acting as one. We will also discuss about product market monopsony. First, the aggregate demand curve of a commodity with many buyers slowed downward and to the right because it is based on marginal utility. Second, the marginal utility of good declines with increased ownerships and a person provides less for each new unit. Number 3, suppose that the market demand curve remain unchanged. This happens if there is just one buyer or if all purchasers agree to act jointly. Number 4, since the supply curve predicts how much all the sellers will jointly offer at each price, we can also assume that it does not vary. Also, the cost of manufacturing each quantity which forms the basis of the supply price remains constant in the presence of the monopsony. Next, there are two generalizations that made by John Robinson. First, under pure competition. Under pure competition, a buyer will continuously acquire new units of a goods until the price equals to the marginal utility. Other than that, under monopsony, the buyer will control purchases in the monopsony economy so that marginal cost equals marginal utility. Assume that a hypothetical product X has a full market price. Regardless of how much he buys, a single buyer cannot affect the price. Assume marginal utility data shown in column 5 refers to a specific consumers who exclusively purchase this particular commodity. Ownerships of the product first unit give the consumer access to 7 worth of marginal utility at any one time. Continue to purchase the product until the price fall from column 2 equal to the marginal utility fall from column 5, at which point he will stop. Imagine that this market's only purchaser of product X is the same consumer. He still receives marginal utility of 7, 6, 5, and 4 from purchasing the first through fourth units of the commodity column 5. The more units of our consumer wants to buy, the higher the price will be, assuming that businesses can grow production of this product only under condition of increasing cost outward sloping market supply. Because he is the only purchaser, the monopsonist must pay a higher price per unit if he wants to purchase more. Higher output comes at a higher cost per unit of production. The marginal cost of the second unit is 3, 4 minus 1, as shown in column 4. As opposed to just 2, which is the second unit's real cost. However, because this 3 marginal cost is less than the 6 marginal utility of the second unit, the buyer will choose to purchase it. The table shows that this consumer will choose to purchase 3 units of the product since at this price, his marginal cost 5 and marginal utility is also 5 are exactly equal. Resource market monopsony. First, Robinson analyzed resource market monopsony using the labor market as an example. Number 2, figure 17 to a modern day depiction of labor market monopsony inspired by Robinson's own presentation. Number 3, ignore the curve in the figure marked VMP in order to keep the explanation reasonable. Monopolistic employer must deal with MWC above the market supply curve X. It limits employment A rather than B in order to pay a less than competitive wage R rather than S in order to maximize maximize its profit. Robinson defined monopolistic employment as NR, or the difference between the monopsony wage and the marginal revenue product MRP. Monopsony wage minus MRP. When there is monopolistic competition in the product market, monopoly exploitation is TN, and the value of the marginal product VMP surpass the market reference price MRP. When an employer adds a new employee, overall revenue increase. This is known as their marginal revenue product. When a product is sold in a market where there is only competition, the marginal revenue product decrease as more employees are hired. Law of diminishing returns. Each additional workers makes a smaller contribution to increase output and consequently marginal revenue than did the earlier addition of the same number of workers. The labor supply curve slope upward and to the right. The monopsonies face the market labor supply curve since it is the only employer of a specific types of labor. In a monopsony, the MWC, the additional expense incurred by adding a worker, exceed the AWC, also known as the wage rate. To attract more workers away from alternative employment, domestic chores, or leisure activities, the monopsony must raise the wage rate. It must also pay this increased salary rate to all the workers. Therefore, hiring a second employee would cost more than what would be earned by that employee. It also includes the extra pay given to the employees who would have been hired for less, due to the fact that it displays the wage rates that must be paid per employee in order to attract a specific workforce. This curve also represents AWC. How many workers will the monopsonies represented in figure 17 to employ? According to Robinson, the correct response is A, since this is the value at which the less workers' marginal revenue product, point N, match the marginal pay cost. If MRP more than MWC, it will be profitable for the firm to hire more workers, and if MRP less than MWC, the employer could add to his profits by reducing employment. L is the wage rate for the monopsonies in figure 17.2. The supply curve shows that at this wage level, it may draw the number of workers, A, necessary to maximize profits. After that, exploitation under monopolistic competition. Marginal revenue does not increase by the full amount of product price when additional units of output are sold. The additional output will result in a lower margin of profit for the company when it hires a new employee and sells the increased output. Even if the company could have sold certain units for more money, if it had not recruited the extra worker, it will sell every unit at the cheaper price. There are 4 remedies for exploitation. First, union should set a minimum salary. Number 2, at the imposed wage rate, the labor supply becomes completely elastic and the marginal cost of labor equal to average cost of labor. Next, supply curve represented by the horizontal line originating from the vertical axis. Lastly, salary equal to marginal revenue products. So, monopsony-related exploitation would end. Last but not least, there are also 4 criticisms of exploitation under monopolistic competition. First, only genuine competition in the product sale is covered by the Robinson concept of exploitation. Second, none of the factors can obtain the value of their marginal products. Third, Robinson insists that all the factors are exploited. And lastly, only way for employers to escape exploitation is by declaring bankruptcy.
Now, let's head into the conclusion. The conclusion is there are 2 major differences between marginalists and also neoclassical economists in the terms of economic analysis. The first one is the interest in the role of money. Several neoclassical economists such as Fisher and also Wicksell have far greater interest in the role of money that works in economics compared to the earlier of marginalists. Another aspect is the market structure. The neoclassical economists extended marginal analysis to other market structure that is different from the marginalists, which believe only the pure competitions, pure monopoly, and also duopoly. The representative economics of the market structure is Chamberlain and also Robinson. First, let's talk about these two economists and their contributions on monetary economics. The first one is John Gustav Knut Wicksell. He carried out an analysis of the role of interest rate in achieving an equivalent price level or in generating cumulative inflation and deflationary movements. This action is recognizing the potential contribution of the government and also central bank in regarding the aspect of retarding or promoting the price stability. He also contributes to an early statement of saving and investment. This saving investment helps in macroeconomics equilibrium. This also established the name of Wicksell as the father of the Stockholm School of Economics. Next, let's talk about Irving Fisher. His contribution is he stated out the theory of interest, the quantity theory of money, and also helps in the monetary policies. Next, let's see about the contribution of neoclassical economists on the theories of imperfect competitions. This included Edward Hastings Chamberlain, which voiced out the theory of monopolistic competitions, and also Joanne Robinson that stated out the theory of monopsony. This helped the economists to realize that they are more market structure other than pure competitions, pure monopoly, and also duopoly. Here is our reference, the book The Evolutions of Economic Thoughts from the Brew and Grant in 2013. Here's some past year question to help you refresh your mind. This question is from UUM SEM 1 in the year of 2014 to 2015. This is question 3. The question shows that Joanne Robinson was one of the contributors in the neoclassical school. By using a suitable diagrams, discuss the theory of monopsony by Robinson. Through the diagram in 1, explain how the marginal value products MVP and the marginal revenue product MRP determine the magnitude of labor exploitation in monopsony and also monopoly market. Next question, we have the question from SEM 2, 2016 to 2017. It is question 2B. The question calls us to define the monopsony in a product market using related table. The last question also comes from SEM 2, but it is from the year 2015 to 2016. This is question 3. The question wants us to discuss about the following statements. If Wicksell felt that the focus of monopoly policies should be on the interest rate, while Fisher believed that it should be on the stock of money. Do you agree on that? Write down your answer and chat with your lecturer if all the questions you have answered it right. That's all for our sharing from Group 6. Thank you and goodbye.